To follow this tutorial, go to this repository and copy the HTTP link for cloning. Go to your required folder, git clone, copy the link, and then we need to clone the branch starter -v starter and open that with VS Code. Install the requirements, dependencies. It may take a bit. Once it's done, type npm start, which is a script we have here which starts the project. So this is what we have right now. This is the starter. This is the starter project where we will go through the scripts we have. So this one is the app bar, which contains a typography and two icon buttons. The first one is the shopping cart icon, and we feed the item count into it, the number of items in the cart. So that's all about the app bar. The next one, this is the products component with the product carts. Products, it just gets the products from the parent and it loops through to create these product cart items. The product card is a very simple one with two typographies and one add to cart button here. And then the cart has a typography heading, and then it actually gets the cart items from the parent. It loops through to create these cart cards, and also we have a pay button. Yeah, that's all. It's a very simple thing to start with. And right now what we are seeing, so when we talk about the API folder, which contains the hard-coded data for the products and the cart items, and we have these functions which basically mimics some delay. We are going to have 4 functions: add products, get product, get cart items, add cart item, remove cart item, and we mimic that delay as small delay here. We have also a couple of utility functions. The first one just gets to display this part, also this part. So yeah, so these we store the value as cents, but we store the value as cents, but we need to display that in dollar. So this utility function gets that, it displays that. The next we have a wait, which creates a promise and resolves itself after the given millisecond. And for some fun, we just have some randomness here. If we don't pass anything, it's a default value for MS. It creates a random number between 0 to 1000, and we use that. That's all about it. To talk about the data flow right now, so here in the app, in the most parent React component in the app, we call these two functions, get product and get cart items, and we pass them into the products and cart, and also in the primary app bar we are passing the cart items dot length. That's why we get these two. So for example, if we change one of a cart item, we take this out, so that change gets reflected everywhere. So the cart item is now showing 1. We have only one cart item box, this card here, and then the pay button is also updated. Actually React is helping us till this point. What we are seeing is just React, which gets all the data in the very first parent, the topmost parent in the component tree. We get all the data. It's like hitting the API, and we are just passing them inside these required components. But if we are going to create interactions like this add to cart or remove, or to have a loader here while we load this, or to have an error message while any of these APIs fail, while clicking, if we click add to cart, it's going to hit the database, and if database succeeds, the call succeeds, it's going to actually add in our local global Redux. I mean, we haven't used Redux yet, but I'm just saying in this stage, this is the store we have. This is the store. This is the products data. This is the cart items data. When we hit the API for add to cart and it gets success, we need to actually come here to do something about this product because, sorry, this cart items, because this is the guy who feeds all the data to everybody. The source of truth comes from here, and which gets really cumbersome when we have like hundreds of components here. So it gets really simple if we have a global store to store all the required information which are being shared among the components without being so right now what we are doing here is we are prop drilling. We have the data as props in one component, and okay, in this case it's not props but it's just a state of this app component, and we are just prop drilling inside everybody. We pass into the card cart, and then the cart in turn passes into its child card. So it gets tedious. If we want to change a thing inside a card, we need to use something like a callback function. Here we would need some callback function to change the card items, and we need to pass that function into the cart, and then in turn this cart will pass that function into this cart, and this card can access that. So this makes the components live really coupled with each other. That's not the component should be able to work independently. So when we use a proper state management system, in this case when we use Redux and Redux Saga, we are decoupling this tight coupling data. We are going to avoid these dependencies dependent on the prop, and then all these difficulties, and the component can subscribe to whatever data they want, and we these add to cart and remove, and this will become like actions, and anybody can dispatch any action they want. So it becomes very simple when we scale to hundreds of components in a project. They can all subscript data, they can all they can all dispatch actions. So we actually I did a YouTube video using context API. So this has a YouTube video also, but this I wanted to do it using Redux and Redux Saga, and I'm planning to do it in a much more elaborate way compared to what we did last time. So let's start. Let's do a full data flow, and instead of these lines I'm going to use a Saga to fetch this data, and use reducers to to push the product data into the global store. Let's get started. I'm going to comment this. Let's start with a constants file. For this action we have products fetch. We have basically three action types for products fetch, and then products fetch success, products fetch fail. So when this guy, instead of calling directly, he's going to actually dispatch an action with products fetch. The Saga will listen to this and there are two outcomes for this action. So the API may throw an error, something may go wrong, or it may return the result. When it returns the results, we are going to again dispatch this product fetch success along with the actual data we got by the response. If it's failed, we are going to do something else. So the constants are ready. Now let's go ahead and create our Saga. So inside store, this index will carry the root Saga. We'll be having products Saga. So a watcher Saga watches for this particular type of action. We will be using a hook called use dispatch to dispatch the actions which can be listened by, which will be acted by the sagas and reducers. So that's what the watcher saga will do. It will look for this one and it will call this function. This function we are ready to create. So typically each saga will have one watcher saga, and this handle product fetch is called a worker saga. Typically a saga will have one watcher saga and may have multiple worker sagas. We will use we can use any number of take every. We will do it in a bit. So inside a try catch, we are going to actually call that API. So let's import that. And Redux Saga, we typically use call, put, and select. Take every is used for, and there's also another method called take latest. I would say that's a better option. For example, oh, for example, if the user can actually click a button 10 times. If it does that, then the saga will just react to the last click, and which is useful in many use cases like logging in, hitting an API on a button click, which can get really hard when we want to do it manually. But Redux Saga makes it easy by having this function. We'll see it in action. Maybe we will update this to take every, and let's see the action. Call is used to actually call the API. Call response. So this is how we call in an async function, usually an API. Here, this is actually an async function. We can actually, instead of this just waiting for having a fake delay, we can actually go ahead and hit some API here. You're going to get that, and this put is used to dispatch a function. We are going to dispatch an action. So here the type is fetch success, because the action is success. We are still inside the try block. Along with the payload is response dot this. We don't want the whole response. We don't want to send this whole thing as a response, just the products. And similarly, in the catch, if something goes wrong, if the API sends back some error, we are going to have this type with the payload. Let's just pass the error. And the select is actually used to fetch the data. For example, const state, when we sorry, the select is actually used to, if we want to get hold of the state, we can use select. yield select of. So this takes a selector. We can just pass this function to get the whole state, or we can pass a part of state. Dot produces products. Let's just log this for a while. We'll sit in action, we can just delete it. Here we don't need to get any data, but inside Saga it's very helpful to use select and get the data. And we need to export this watcher Saga. Okay, so we are good. Let's create the root Saga. The root Saga is a generated function too. So we can have any number of sagas here. Now the setup is, as the setup ready, we can download, we can import any number of sagas, and we can keep adding to this array. So we created this product saga, and let's move on to the reducers. Let's create the product reducer. So this is actually a valid reducer. Let's copy this, and instead of just returning the state, we are going to have a switch statement, and this in the switch we are going to switch the action type. So this is the thing that differentiate what kind of action we are trying to do, right? In the product saga, we are so this is the action type. So we're going to switch between the different types of actions, and the action here is going to be, let's import the action. And if this is the case, in our case we are going to just return the action type. As I said, the reducer must be a pure function. Whenever the request in the control flow enters this part, we cannot directly change the state. Whatever we return here, if you just return an empty array, it's going to write the whole state of this reducer. A reducer, how I see a reducer is that it will get very clear when we finish this root reducer. A reducer is a partition of the whole state. So Redux does not allow having multiple states, but we can have any number of reducers, and I see a reducer as a part of a state. So dot action dot payload. So whatever we get as the payload, in this case we fetch the whole array, list of arrays here, whole list is action dot payload, and we are going to just return the whole thing here. That's what needed. Okay, I think we are good here, and now we have to write the root reducer. So we need to start with a method called combine reducers from the Redux package. A state can be only one reducer. A state can be multiple reducers. Here we are going to have multiple reducers. We need to import the reducer. Okay, so we started with the saga. We wrote this saga. We set up the root saga. We wrote this reducer. We set up the root reducer. Now we have to actually plug in our make this saga. A Redux saga is basically a Redux middleware. We have to plug in Redux Saga into our actual store. We are going to use a function called apply middleware from Redux. We are already importing the reducer, so we need to let's call this root reducer and root saga from sagas, and along with this we are going to just pass the apply middleware. Okay, so before that we need to actually create the Saga middleware. Redux Saga. So this is the function we import from the actual Redux Saga without any slashes, and the other call put take every those functions we get from effects. Saga middleware, we just call this, we just invoke this function to get the Saga middleware, and we just apply that middleware. And before actually returning the function, we are going to run this, and you have to pass this root Saga inside it, and that's all. Now we have actually set up the Saga to work with our Redux. Next, let's just go ahead and dispatch an action, and let's see it in action. Without that, there's nothing happening because create Saga exported from. Okay, so this is a default export. Okay, product fetch file is not defined. Okay, so this stuff product Saga, I have forgot to import them. Initial state is not defined, action is not defined, product reducer. Initial state is just an empty array. Action, it's not actions. Okay, so it says you must explicitly return the initial state. If the past state is undefined, the initial state may not be undefined, but if you want to set a value for this reducer, you can use null instead of undefined. Okay, so whenever an action is dispatched, if we have like 10 reducers here, Redux is going to actually pass that action to all these reducers. So here we are looking for an action called action with the type products fetch success. If we get product fetch failure here, and then it's going to hit the default because no case has satisfied that type. In the default, we have to actually return the whole the state. It need not be the initial state, but whatever the reducer kept at that point, that's what sent to this state, and we have written it because Redux expects every reducer to return every time a dispatch is happening. So this should fix. Yeah. So let's go ahead and test this flow from our component. So here from here we have commented this line. So and we are going to dispatch. So we need use dispatch hook from React Redux, and we have to get this from use dispatch, and we can dispatch it. And we are good. Let's see. Okay, actions may not have a different type property. Have you misspelled a constant? products fetch from the okay. Oh, we have not exported it. Okay, yeah, so we got the data here. We have we also logged this state in the product.saga, remember, just to test this select. So in the 18th line we are getting the products saga 18, we are actually getting that. So this is how select works. So that's very convenient when the saga is running. Redux Saga is like a separate thread where we use for racing operations. It's very handy to have a hold of the actual state the Redux is holding. So the select is used for that. Let's maybe comment this just for reference, just to remember what select does. I think we don't do anything with the select right now, but it's very helpful in the actual projects. And here we have the data. Let's let's destructure it and pass. We don't need this too. Can delete this stuff, and we can pass this here. So we should be seeing state is not defined. 27. Okay, yeah, we destructure products from that. Okay, so we got that back. So it may actually seem insane to just replace 2 lines of code we just deleted and to have everything. We started with the saga, we wrote this saga, we created a root saga here, and we created the products reducer, the root reducer, and then we used a hook, use dispatch hook from React reducer, React Redux. By invoking that we get the dispatch, and we have to use that to dispatch an action. So all this stuff, is it worth? It is worth actually. So when it works in a very disciplined way. Not everybody can actually, if we allow everybody to do everything, that's going to be bring havoc. So this is a unidirectional data flow. Every component, obviously we cannot restrict people from using that, but it's a discipline people have to maintain, not to actually hitting the API or anything. But they should. It's like the data will pass towards the component. It's live data. Whenever anybody changes, that's going to affect this component also. And if if this component wants to dispatch an action, they have to use dispatch. Use selector, use dispatch. This is what they do for dealing with the state and then the changes they want to do in the states to the state. So there we have it. It's working. So let's go ahead and actually create the cart. Maybe let's get lazy and copy paste this a bit, because we are going to use take latest. We are going to obviously have a watcher saga. Maybe we will change this function's name and this function's name. This is going to be get cart items. That's what we're going to call here. And this is going to be handle cart items fetch. Let's also update this one. This is okay. Now we have to actually create our constants like this. We need another 3 sets of things. Instead of products, this time it's going to be cart items. Cart items fetch, and then 2 outcomes for this action. So here I have to change Let's watch for this constant, and the outcomes are the success and then the fail. They're going to call a different function here, and I need to look at the API once to see what I'm sending back. Let's pin this for further reference. So add cards, it send success and then the actual array. So this is what we have to look from the response. So here the response dot card items. I think we are good here. Okay, so let's go to the. So once we get the setup ready, it will become really simple to create new sagas and add them. So the saga is ready actually. So let's go ahead and create the reducer. So maybe let's just copy paste this. And let's add that to the root reducer. Let's import that. Cards, items, reducer. So the second time, as you can see, it's a lot more simpler. When we have the setup ready, it's very simple to keep adding this stuff. I think we are good. Let's go ahead and comment the other two lines. Let's dispatch this time. Let's do the cart items fetch. So I just commented it, and let's comment this also. Oh. So the card is not coming. So I'm going to dispatch another type called cart items fetch. What? So I made two spelling mistakes, and that is giving me some problems. So cart items, where am I calling that from? Reduces, the root reduces. Cart reducer. Okay. Cart items, cart reducer, root reducer, component reducers. But still, it's not coming. So it's a great time to actually introduce the Redux dev tools. Okay, because I have no idea what went wrong here. So let's go ahead and use the middleware. For this we need compose. Compose them together in a single function. Yeah, that's what I'm doing. Reduces, compose, apply middleware. Oh, there are two parentheses there. and then we need here one. Okay. Okay, now we can actually go into this Redux and see what happened in the app. So product fetch happened, but this product fetch is actually raised by this one, the app.js. Here we dispatch products fetch and cart items fetch, and that's what we are seeing here: products fetch, cart items fetch, and then cart items fetch success, and then okay, yeah. So actually everything is happening good. So you can see fetch success. Cart items fetch just has this type alone, right? Yeah, just, but no, there's no payload. There's no payload in both things. There's no payload here also. In the success, the cart items fetch success is actually raised given by the Saga, where we actually included the payload response to cart items while calling this invoke dispatching this function, so that we can see the two things. And then the fetch success includes lots of details. So what we missed to do is we got this. We have to actually, so this, when we directly deconstruct a state, the whole state, we can go to reducer and see this. This is exactly what we are destructuring. The products we have already destructured. The cart items we have to do. Cart items. Not these cart items. What happened? Okay, this need not be capital C. So we got these cart items and we have to pass that here. And we can take this off. We don't want any of them. Let's make this to the top. Okay, now it should. Now it is working. So we did the same again for the cart. We came here, we basically copy pasted the product saga and replaced that, and we updated the root saga. We imported that, we updated that, and we did the same for the cart item reducer, and then we imported that and updated that. And from any component we want, we don't have to, it doesn't need to be app.js. Any component in the huge component tree, hundreds of components, anyone can actually use these two hooks from React Redux and deal with the global store. To get the data, use selector. To actually dispatch any action towards the state, we are going to use dispatch. And we have successfully brought these things to work, and let's move ahead and actually do the same for add to cart and remove. So before moving to the add cart and remove cart items, I would like to do some small changes in the reducers. So right now the default state is empty array, and instead of that I'm going to have an initial state with cart items as empty array. It's always good to have the stuff we want inside an array. So if we introduce anything else here, like for example some additional information, so right now if you see in the app.js,
we just access cart items. That is actually the reducer's name here, right? So that gets really difficult if we want to add anything later. For example, I have done this update, right? I have changed this, and we will use immer for this also, as we are going to deal with add and remove items. So this is what we do before the immer cart items. So this is very important because right now we don't have any, so we may assume that, oh, let's just do this, and if we add anything later, the additional important information, when the Redux when this reducer gets this action, that's going to just nullify this one. They'll just forget it. So it's always without using the immer. This is very important to spread everything before having our stuff. This is going to break our app. Why should I strict mode? Cart maps dot cart items dot map is not a function. So this is the problem I wanted to fix. So it's always good to have the data inside an object so that additionally we can add anything. Initially it was just an array, right? So to fix this, I have to actually I can do this also. I'm destructuring two times. I destructure this cart items and this cart items. Maybe I'll just change this reducer's name here. Products cart. Let's have that as cart. So I will call this as cart. If something is breaking, so it's just working. But imagine if we do this change later in the project, when hundreds of components already doing that, that's going to be a huge task to fix everything. So that's the one thing, and let's also fix this one. So that's going to break this. It's going to say product is not a map, product.map is not a function, and cart product, maybe let's call it product reducer. And in the app we need to destructure again. We have to destructure products. Now we should work. What? So Redux the DevTools comes in handy. Oh, actually there is a huge problem going on here. Oh my god, okay, I did a huge mistake here. Okay, so this stuff should actually is the there is a madness going on here because of my mistake. This guy should be inside an use effect with nothing. We don't have return cleanup. That's a huge mistake. So that was actually going on infinitely, as you could see here. I forgot completely. So when these guys were outside, these guys create trigger product.fetch, and they fetch it fetches the database, this API, it brings back, it updates, this state will get updated, right? Whenever this state updates, it renders the whole component again, and when this happens, this again dispatched. So that was a terrible mistake. Now that is fixed. Let's see product fetch. Okay, yeah, we raised this product fetch action. We raised this cart item fetch successful, products fetch successful. Yeah, it's also successful. What is the state we have? So the state is also having okay, product. The changes we did not actually reflect. Okay, yeah, so that's because we did not do this one. state comma Redux. Now it should work. So previously we were just returning this, but in the app.js we were looking for the inside the products array inside the actual object. So okay, so now that we have fixed it, let's go ahead with the add and remove cart items. Let's create one more function which is called handle add cart item. It says we have another function here, we add cart item. In this project, if you look at this function, it does nothing. It's just a fake function which makes it wait for some milliseconds and returns just success. The Saga can actually destructure the payload. So when we click this, we are going to actually pass the whole this product detail, product or title, price, and then that's all. We are ID. We are going to send the whole project as a payload here. So we are going to destructure the. We're going to use this. Let's start from the constants. Let's head back to Saga. Let's create the water Saga first. Add item. Okay. So they hit the add cart item, and they're going to send the payload as the payload. In the actual production application, we get this payload, we hit the API along with the payload, it goes back, it goes to the server, it does the action. Once it is done, you're going to get this payload from the response itself. I don't find it very useful in this example, so I am getting the payload right from here. Payload is done, error is done. We have also added the watcher Saga. This time we don't even have to go to the root Saga because it is already bundled in the watcher Saga of this one. So let's go to the cart item reducer, and this point of time I want to introduce immer. Immer exposes a default function called produce. So instead of this function, we are going to just use the produce. So when we use, so this is how the immer helps us. So instead of worrying about always packing everything and sending back a new object, new state every time, we can just use this draft. For example, in this case actually, so this is how we will do in this case. We will just access the whole state as draft dot cart item equal to, so this is like dealing with the mutable data. So the draft that return, we don't have to return also. In this, if the reducer meets this action type, we are going to directly update the stuff. The draft is means the whole state, and we will just update that. And let's go ahead with the next one. Case. This one is add card success. So if it is add card success, then we are going to draft dot cart items dot push, as if, so this much more simple, right? Action dot payload. So what we did, we came here, we added this Saga, and we attached that in the watcher Saga. We came to the reducer, we just added one thing. We also have to break this, or else it will just keep running, and we just modified that. Let's see. Add item is not imported, exported from constants. Add cut saga.js. Okay. State is not different. Card items reducer 21. Return draft. Oh, actually, while using the produce, if the switch statement fails, this will actually get the. We don't need the default here. Well, let's just return that. Okay, now the states are ready. We have to add that functionality to this button. This button lives in product card. So here, okay, we need to import. We need to do that formality, right? We need to import use dispatch from React Redux, and here we are going to use dispatch. Nothing. Then we are going to dispatch a type. Oh. We need to actually dispatch that from here. On click dispatch type is equal to, we will clean this up in a bit. Let's test this first. Also, let's import that constants, which is add card. So type is add card, and payload is product. Let's see how it works. The Redux DevTools helps us to see that in live. Okay, it crashed, but as you can see, we raised the add card with this payload. Yeah, we click the fourth item, condiments, and then success happened, which passed the payload. I'm actually confused now. So add cart items, fetch success. So these both guys got triggered. This is not possible, but it happened anyways. We have to go to a cart saga, handle cart item, call this, and we are putting it. Okay, yeah. So this is fine actually. I got actually confused with the type names, which is add cart success, add cart failed, but cart items fetch, cart items success. This got triggered twice. Yeah, so I did a terrible mistake here. So this guys actually should be add card success and add card failure. Now let's see. It did actually confused stuff. It raised a wrong. It dispatched a wrong action. Add to cart. Wow. Yeah. See. Add to cart. Add cart success. Both got triggered. Add cart had this payload. Success had this payload too, and this reducer guy actually pushed that to the existing state. That's fine. Now there is a problem now. So you can see when I have the same element twice, we gave a key here, you remember? In this component we are providing this key, we are giving the ideas key. If the same condiments or same ID is given for two elements, it's going to throw an error. So there are lots of ways to manage this. It's not a it's not the big issue to solve. It's not relevant to state management. But what we are going to do is, on clicking this, we will just disable this button. So we are just going to, it's like Udemy, you cannot buy same product twice. That's what we are going with. If you want, if you are actually doing a supermarket shopping cart website, we can actually have plus button, minus button here, and we can add and decrement products. So everything is possible. But for now, let's just go ahead and do the same thing for remove, and then we'll see again. So again here, let's delete this cart saga. I'm going to create the same thing again. We need to start from the constants. So back to the cart saga. So we will add handle remove. Oh, remove item, cart item. We'll have another watcher. So the watcher listens to the remove cart, and it triggers this function. We need the payload also here because we need to get the ID to remove. And one more thing is the reducer. So this gets repetitive, right? It gets add remove cart success. So here we are going to actually filter item not equal to ID. It's not defined. Card items reducer. Add to cart. Add to cart. Oh, the same guy is twice. So it is giving the error that the key should be unique for all the components. Let's do it again. Add to cart. Remove. Oh, it did not work. So back to Redux. Add cart success. Oh, we are not dispatching that. Okay. So we finished. We updated the cart saga. We updated the reducers. Now we have to get back to the cart card. So in the remove, we are going to have on click, and also we need to import the use dispatch. And on click, we are going to dispatch. Dispatch this time the type is remove cart, and payload is cart item. Let's see. Oh, it did not work. Cart item, remove cart, remove success, so everything went correctly. Okay. Okay, so the filter actually returns back an array. Oh, I forgot. So the filter is different from a push. The push we can just push so that the actual draft and cart items will get updated, but the filter will always give back a new array. So it should work now. Let's add something. What? Draft dot cart items is equal to item. Okay, so this item is not item but item ID. This item is the whole object. This is one item, so we need to get this ID. Just like how the action dot payload is the whole object and we are getting the ID, so the item must be accessed. The ID must be accessed by item dot ID. Remove. Yeah. Okay. So it's good. So everything is working. The button, the button, the cart icon in the app bar. So guys are working. Next, let's do loading. For example, when the add cart is working, we have this random delay, but there is no loader here, which is a poor user experience, which is confusing. If if the request happens for 2-3 seconds, that is confusing. What's happening if the browser is frozen or something. So let's do the loading. So in order to do the loading, we just have to deal with the reducer. So I'm going to create a new reducer. As I said, reducer is a partition of the state. Loading reducer.js. So import reduce from immer. I'm actually going to create this reducer like a state machine. There are existing actions going on, right? Um, all these actions I'm going to, and if you think about it, all these actions directly relate to a loading status. If the fetch is raised, we need to actually start the loader, and when the product fetch succeeds or fails, we need to stop the loader, which happens for everything. So for the loading status, I'm going to have the initial state as with two things. One is products loading, which is the initial state is going to be false, and then it is cart loading, which is also false initially. Let's import everything here. And the reducer, loading reducer is equal to produce, and gives us the draft and action, where we'll be having a switch statement. The key is going to be action.type, and let's start. Case product fetch, we are going to draft dot products loading true. And for the products loading, it is true when the product fetch, and then the fail for these two guys. So this is this like a state machine we have. So there are four outcomes. There are two booleans and four outcomes, and these are the actions which trigger the changes. Let's export this and add that to the root reducer. I have to also import this. Loading, loading status. Okay. Now let's just, okay, whatever. Returned undefined during initialization. It is the past state passed through the, okay. We got this error earlier. Oh, okay. So we need to pass the initial state. Okay, now we don't have a separate actions for loading. It just happens. Even here you can see that initially the product fetch happened, and then the cart fetch happened, cart fetch succeeded. When the product fetch made the state, it changed the state from false to true. This state, the product's loading state, and then this guy, the cart items fetch action, changed the cart loading state to false to true. And when it succeeded, we got the cart items. That's a different thing, but the loading also getting updated because of this state machine we created. With the actual existing states, we are updating the loading statuses. I'm going to just look for a loader in material UI. Okay, so the linear one is better. Let's create a component loader.js. We need only one. Okay, that's fine. Let's test it out. Okay, so now the loader is working in the top. So we need to make this work only when the state when this state, this product dot loading, this state is loading. Otherwise it shouldn't be working, right? So let's do it. Loading state dot loading status dot products loading, and I'm going to destructure this outside, and here I'm going to loading and loader. Let's re so it's happening very quickly. Let's delay that. So the loader is happening, and then once the data is there, this product fetch success will turn the product loading from true to false. Let's do the same to the cart. Let's have the loader here. import loader from loader, and we'll do the same loading and then loader. Oh. See, the loader is happening, and then it stops when the cart loads. Let's do it once again. Now this is also working. This must also work. Add to cart. The loading is happening, and then it loads. Let's remove something. Remove. The loader happens. What? It goes away when so as you can see, when we set up this setup, adding new functionality, the state driven, the data driven design, the data driven development is much simpler. When we have the setup ready, I just copy pasted this loader. I set up the state for the loader, and here wherever we want the loader, I use the selector from React Redux, and that's all. Now all the logic of this data is happening inside the store, inside the Saga, inside the reducers, and the components are just listeners. They just listen what's happening and then they just react to it. Now let's do the same for the error, for the error alert here when something goes wrong. So let's go find alert material UI. Let's just use this. So we are just going to display the error one, so this is fine. Okay, let's have something went wrong here. Let's update the text later. Okay, so we need to create a reducer just like how we did in the for loading. This is for error reducer.js. We need immer. Here we are going to need the read actually most of this stuff. Here also we are going to have initial state called products error, which is false. Cart error, it's also false. So let's just use okay. So this is about the success and failure, so we don't need this fetch. Okay, so let's start with the products. When the product fetch success, we are going to say product error false, and when the product fetch is fail, we're going to say the product's error is true. For cart, actually there are three actions going on. Add cart, cart items fetch success, add cart success, and remove cart success. So if this is happening, then the cart error is false. For the remaining things, so the same things, but for the fail, it's going to be true. Okay, so let's okay, for this example I have the API ready. Let's do one thing. Let's throw an error first. So product fetch fail. Product fetch fail. Okay, so we haven't connected this reducer, error reducer. Let's fix that first. Capital letter. In the root reducer, so that's why it did not work. So what I'm anticipating to see is that when the fail action is dispatched, we will see this. The product error is now set to true. Okay, so good. We will implement that. So right now it's happening in the products. So let's go here, and similarly we have an alert component. So look for the alert, and then I'm going to also pass an error from state dot error dot and destructure this here. Let's use this error and alert. Let's see. Whoa. Dot lab. Okay, so we don't have that. So okay, so till this point we just have material UI slash core and icons. We need to install the lab also for the alert. Okay, let's refresh it once again. So it looks, if it's not there, it's going to, if the API throws an error, it's going to return back an alert. So that's a good thing. Let's do that for a cart. Maybe let's do it while adding a cart item. For that we need to do the same thing here in the cart. Do the same thing. Error, state dot error, cart error, error. If it's error, then we are going to alert. So how easy it is to add new features, right? Add new card. What? Okay. We actually imported the actual material UI component, but we need to import this component. So when we click to try to add to cart, it's going to say something went wrong. We can extend this having a close button here. We can customize this. On clicking the close button, we can remove the error so that it goes away. But I think it's fine now. Let's check once for the remove cart item. So yeah, it's working. When we remove, what happened? Remove cart item, we are throwing an error. What is our Redux DevTool saying about it? Remove cart success. Why it is success? I'm throwing an error. So cart Saga, remove cart item. We have a oh I'm calling this again. Remove cart item. Okay, so this doesn't matter, right? I was like wondering how did it work earlier, but this function is nothing actually. It is just making it just waits for a second and then returns back error or failure. Add content is not defined. Something went wrong and it did not go away because the server responded with an error, and that means that the server did not update the database, so we should not update too in our Redux store. um I think that's all for now. So hope you enjoyed. Okay, so I wanted to, as I said, right now this is having a bug. We shouldn't allow it to add twice. So in the product card, let's have a check here. Const in card is equal to. Further, we also need the data from the Redux store. You select item, where item ID equal to this product ID, this product, and let's make it a boolean. Find index will return -1 if the product is not there in the array. So here, if it is in cart, then we're going to say in cart, or else it's going to say add to cart. Also, we need to disable that. Disabled equal to in cart. Actually, here it's not a very good practice to just disable something UI wise, right? We are just disabling the buttons, the UIs are not allowing. Actually, we should have this control in the reducer itself. In the cart item reducer, when he adds, it's good to have the restriction here. Instead of just pushing everything, we can just have a small check. We can have the same check there, but it's fine. So we add, and one thing I really like here is when I do something here, then this ink card will change. Oh, okay. I'm still returning an error from here. Okay. Add card condiments. If I remove it, this guy will react for that. And we can keep playing around with it. You can, like I was trying to, on clicking this button is not saying anything, it's not giving any feedback that the particular item is getting selected. And also I wanted to show one more thing, that one more thing about this take every. So add to cart, take every. Right now it is take latest, right? So let's increase this delay a bit, and let's see. So I clicked 4 times, and only this the last click got processed. 1 2 3 4 5, or this, or whatever, this one. Okay, so that's what the take latest works. That's how take latest work. Let's see take every, and let's do it for the add card. Now if I click 4 times, oh, the 10,000 problem. Now if I click 4, guys, 1 2 3 4 5 6, see, everybody got into in cart. These 6, these 2, yeah. So that's the difference between take every and take latest. It's awesome. So if you think about it, in the very beginning, we spent a lot of time working around this boilerplate code. We were setting up this daunting amount of codes in the sagas and then the reducer. And as time progressed, the amount of code, the reduced a lot, right? So we introduced this error reducer. We just plug it in. If you want to create a new saga, we create that and we plug it to the root saga. If you just want one worker saga, we just plug it in here in the watcher saga. So the boilerplate code in the beginning will be very helpful as we progress through it. And there is no one right or wrong way to do, I would say, but there are standards and disciplines to follow. I'm not very sure if I covered everything I wanted to cover, but I think we are good. So that's all. Let's see in the next video. Thank you.